Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here and taking the time to engage with our beautiful city work. Your voice matters, and we are glad to hear from you. I wanted to note that Councilmember Robinson is not with us this evening. Do I have a motion to excuse her absence?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There is no oppose. City Clerk, let me just go back. Okay, great. We have one proclamation here, Black History, flag salute. Councilmember Breyer, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now roll call. City Clerk, are you ready for the roll call?
Of course. Mayor Malakutian.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton.
Here.
Councilmember Bargava.
Here.
Councilmember Breyer.
Here.
Councilmember Neuenhouse.
Here.
Councilmember Robinson is absent. And Councilmember Sumadoria. Thank you.
Great. Now we have a proclamation, Black History Month proclamation. We have Jerry Lee. Please come and sit on the table. We have Jerry Lee, MG2 Foundation, Executive Director and Curator for the Black History Art Exhibition. We have Charlize Jackson, MG2 Executive Administrator. We have Jay Taylor, MG2 Architect and Curator for the Black History Art Exhibition. And we have Fancy Vargas, Elevate CEO and Creative Director and Curator for the Black History Art Exhibition. And Deputy Mayor Hamilton will read the proclamation.
Whereas the story of Black History Month traces back to 1926, when historian Carter G. Woodson established Negro History Week to address the absence and misrepresentation of Black history in the American narrative, and whereas in 1970, Black students and educators expanded this observance into a month-long celebration, and in 1976, the President of the United States formally recognized February as Black History Month to honor the central role of Black history in the American experience, and whereas Black and African Americans have made profound and enduring contributions to our nation, shaping its social, artistic, cultural, political, and economic foundations, and enriching the lives of all Americans, and whereas the city of Bellevue recognizes the ongoing need to confront racial injustice and inequity as persistent disparities and continued instances of violence and discrimination against Black Americans remind us that more work remains, and whereas the observance of Black History Month calls on us to reflect honestly on our shared history, including the experiences of Caribbean, African, and other Black immigrants who have shaped American society, and to recognize the contributions of Black immigrants, including students, refugees, and those with temporary protected status as part of our shared history and resilience. Now, therefore, I, Dave Hamilton, on behalf of Mo Malakutian, Mayor of the City of Bellevue, Washington, and the City Council, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month in Bellevue and encourage all community members to join in honoring the invaluable contributions of Black Americans to our community and nation while recommitting to the work of addressing racism and advancing equity so that Bellevue remains a place where everyone can belong and thrive.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Please.
Guess I'll speak first. I want to thank the mayor and the city council, Diane Carlson, Todd, and Eric for their amazing support of Black History Month. I've worked with the city on many minority events for 20 years. Your early, and I say early, inclusion of diversity is just amazing. So thank you for all of us, and especially your early introduction into inclusion and diversity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council, city staff for this honor and recognizing Black History Month. As a community organizer, I'm rooted in the belief that culture is essential. When we invest in artists, storytellers, and community builders, we create space for healing, opportunity, and belonging. I'm grateful to be part of that work, and I'm happy to accept this honor on behalf of those who continue to shape this city every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Jay Taylor, architect, board member for Onyx Fine Arts Collective, and co-curator for the Melodies of Diaspora exhibit. I'd like to, on behalf of Onyx Fine Arts, I'd like to thank the city of Bellevue and all the employees for their support and for their recognition of Black History Month, as it is a testament to the community alliance formed between the city, the MG2 Foundation, Elevate, and Onyx Fine Arts Collective.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Bellevue City Council. I'm Charlize Jackson, working with MG2 Foundation. And first, I must say that I'm humbled to be one of the many that could have been chosen to be accepting the Black History Month proclamation. It means so much to me because I grew up poor, but well taken care of by a father who was blinded when I was 3 years old. He had to stop working construction, and my mother was a nurse, and she had to stop being a nurse to take care of her blinded husband and 3 daughters. So we've seen a lot. And we've been through so many challenges. And so we lived in the Central District of Seattle. And for the past 14 years, I have been a resident of Bellevue, Washington. So I must say that the growth that I have seen in Bellevue since I first moved here, relating to diversity, I'm blessed to still own that home in the Central District, but living in Bellevue, seeing the changes, and how the city has grown and is embracing collaboration of many cultures gives me more even of a sense of belonging in Bellevue, Washington. So I look forward to continuing the work and watching you all continue to work because together with the city of Bellevue, I'm just honored to be a part of the city now. And I'm looking forward to more unification and raising awareness and collaboration with you all, and thank you.
Thank you. We are honored you are part of the Bellevue, and if you're okay, we can take a picture right now. Absolutely. Do I have a motion to approve of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Sumadeveria, did you say aye or nay? I couldn't hear you.
Said aye.
Perfect. All great. We can, motion passes. City Clerk, are there any speakers signed up for oral communication?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This evening, there are 9 people on our pre-registered list. So before I start calling names, I'll go over a few of the rules that the council has in place. So the total time for oral communications is for a period of not more than 30 minutes, and all topics must relate to City of Bellevue government. People speaking to items on tonight's agenda will be called first, and then if time remains, people speaking to items not on tonight's agenda will be called. In both of those categories, the presiding officer has authorization to give preference to those who have not spoken to council within the last 60 days, or who will be speaking on topics that will come in front of the council within the next 60 days. Speakers are allowed up to 3 minutes to speak, and only 3 speakers will be permitted to speak to any one side of a particular topic. And then finally, I want to remind everybody that in compliance with Washington state campaign laws regarding the use of public facilities during elections, no speaker may support or oppose a ballot measure or support or oppose a candidate for election, and that includes one's own campaign. Any speaker who begins discussing those topics will be asked to stop. So with that, I'll call our first speaker, who is Sahara Meany.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Malakutian, Deputy Mayor Hamilton, and council members. For the record, I'm Sahara Meany. I'm here on behalf of Habitat for Humanity to speak about our comments and feedback on the affordable housing strategy. We strongly support the staff's proposal and appreciate their deep engagement with community members and stakeholders. This strategy reflects a clear commitment to keeping Bellevue a welcoming and accessible place for people of all incomes to live and thrive. We want to especially applaud the explicit prioritization of homeownership, including the use of clear metrics and targeted financial investments. Homeownership is critical to long-term housing stability and economic mobility, and your commitment and leadership is especially important as rising housing costs continues to push homeownership out of reach for many working families. We also support the expanded affordable housing requirement as an important tool to meet Bellevue's housing targets and to implement House Bill 1491, the TOD bill, by 2029. However, we believe that success will depend on pairing these requirements with meaningful development incentives, such as the multifamily tax exemption to support feasible mixed-income development. The Wilburton example demonstrates that Bellevue is ready to advance this balanced approach. We appreciate the proposed strategy's focus on reducing costs and timeline for affordable housing, recognizing that these efficiencies allow limited public resources to go further. We encourage the city to apply land use code reforms, expedited permit review, technical assistance, as well as design review exemption to all housing developers that provide on-site performance of affordable housing, as a practical way to accelerate delivery and remove unnecessary barriers. Finally, we commend the city for emphasizing increased affordable housing revenue and for centering equity, inclusion, and community voices in housing decision-making. We encourage the council to view this strategy as a strong and ambitious framework that leaves room to explore the full range of solutions needed over the coming decade. Thank you for your leadership, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the list is Nikki Stuck, who is joining us virtually. Ms. Stuck, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Your time begins now.
Great. Mayor Malakutian, Deputy Mayor Hamilton, and council members, my name is Nikki Stuck, testifying on behalf of the Bellevue Chamber Plush Committee. First, we want to acknowledge that there is much to appreciate in the draft affordable housing strategy. It includes several thoughtful proposals that could meaningfully improve housing affordability and supply in Bellevue. We also thank staff for the listening tour over the past year. The outreach to organizations including Plush, BDC, and others is clearly reflected in this work, and we value that engagement. With respect to the high priority actions in this plan, we generally support many of the proposed steps the city could take to increase housing supply and improve affordability. That said, we have several concerns we ask council to address. In particular, we caution against over-reliance on taxing housing to fund housing, whether through inclusionary mandates that shift affordability costs onto renters for the life of a project or through fees in lieu. Seattle's MHA program illustrates this risk. Fee levels have risen to the point that they have constrained development and are no longer generating meaningful revenue due to their prohibitive cost. Given current economic conditions, we urge caution with respect to new or expanded housing-related taxes. Any future revenue strategy should be limited and broad-based. We specifically ask that the plan before you align with the Council's adopted legislative agenda, which included removed advocacy for additional real estate taxes that increase housing costs and undermine project feasibility. While we remain opposed to costly inclusionary mandates, at a minimum, we ask that Council direct staff to apply the same level of rigor, time, and analytical intensity to incentive-based approaches as is currently devoted to mandatory programs. Additionally, we oppose any proposal that would mirror Seattle's rental registration and inspection program. That program has well-documented unintended consequences, particularly for small landlords due to significant administrative burdens. The Seattle City Council itself commissioned a report acknowledging these impacts, and given that experience, we respectfully request that any similar provision be removed from Bellevue's plan. We also oppose strengthening broad tenant protection policies that risk discouraging housing providers from operating or investing in Bellevue. Experience in other jurisdictions include operating deficits, property sales, and increased reliance on subsidies, ultimately undermining housing stability and supply. Finally, several items in the draft strategy remain unclear, including proposals related to universal design and visitability, changes to the eviction resolution program, relocation assistance, and operating subsidies. Before these move forward as a part of any approved document, we ask for greater clarity on what specific actions they would entail. We share the city's goal of increasing housing affordability and supply and appreciate the collaborative process to date. We look forward to continuing to work with council and staff to refine this strategy in a way that supports housing production and keeps Bellevue a strong place to invest and live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daniel Landis.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Dan Landis. I am the Vice President of Development with King County Housing Authority. We have a long history of partnering with the city to help find affordable housing solutions for the people of Bellevue. I'm also a member of the Eastside Affordable Housing Coalition, and I'm here on behalf of this coalition to speak to our support of the affordable housing strategy that the city staff has put together. It's a very comprehensive, bold, and thoughtful document that especially is good in recognizing that there isn't just one solution for affordable housing, but there are lots of strategies, lots of ideas, lots of actions that are needed for us to truly address affordability for all of the people that work and live in the city of Bellevue. There are a couple of ideas in the plan, proposals that we would really like to draw out and support or offer our support for. And one of those is mandatory inclusionary zoning. And what this is a very innovative way to use the upzones, the value that is created from upzones as a funding source for affordable housing in market rate developments. We have seen this be very effective, increasing the amount of affordable housing in many communities across the area, and we encourage that the exploration of that in the city of Bellevue continue. We also want to highlight the idea of creating new resources for affordable housing, especially resources that can be used to finance housing that may not be reached by the inclusionary zoning or the market, especially that housing that's developed by nonprofits and your local housing authority. One of the really great things about having local funding sources is that attracts a lot of investment into the community from outside the community, whether it be from the county, the state, the federal government, or even private investors. Finally, I just want to thank the staff for doing such a good job of putting a comprehensive plan together, and the coalition is excited about continuing to work with the city on the implementation of these great ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Claire Sue.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Claire Shu, and I'm a part of the Bellevue Youth Council, but today I come here as a youth resident to speak about the importance of including youth voice when discussing housing priorities. Housing decisions in Bellevue not only affect adults, but also young people such as students, and these voices are often missing from these conversations. According to the Bellevue's Housing Needs Assessment, in 2020, 19% of all individuals experiencing homelessness in King County were under 18 years old, and the Human Service Needs Assessment found that during a 3-day count in 2024 in Bellevue, 123 people were living in vehicles, and around 38% of them were children. And just last school year, 651 students in the Bellevue School District were experiencing homelessness. And these numbers don't just represent statistics, but they actually represent the students and teens in our schools that are trying to learn while facing housing instability. Youth in Bellevue are heavily impacted by these housing issues, but their perspectives aren't often as considered when planning new units or making housing policy decisions. And including youth voices allows housing to better consider the needs of students, such as how housing stability affects their education, commuting, and more. Housing instability can lead to frequent school changes and other disruptions that can negatively affect their health and learning and academic performance, as well as their mental health and well-being, which demonstrates the direct impact that housing policies have on youth. And incorporating youth voice can influence the decisions on important factors such as the locations, access to community resources, and longer-term opportunities. For example, when developing new affordable housing, it could be helpful to consider proximity to school or libraries so that students and youth can have better access to these educational resources. So I encourage the council to consider the youth perspective and voices during discussions on housing priorities. And this could include looking for youth input during housing planning processes, or considering how developments could impact students' accessibility to educational resources or transportation. Incorporating youth perspectives in decision-making and considering how housing policies affect students will help ensure Bellevue's housing better reflects the needs of young residents. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would ask briefly, that speaker was signed up in support of the affordable housing strategy. Do you want to consider that a supportive comment or more broad comments in general?
I think that was more broad comments.
Thank you. So I am going to call one additional speaker before we cap out on the affordable housing topic, and that final speaker is Brady Nordstrom.
Welcome, Brady.
Thank you very much. I am Brady Nordstrom. I'm here with the Housing Development Consortium, also with the Eastside Affordable Housing Coalition. You've heard the tagline a few times, I hope, but we are over 30 organizations that work in the East Side to build, design, and operate affordable housing. Everything from shelter and supportive housing all the way up to workforce housing, and that includes a lot of organizations in Bellevue. Some of the other speakers have covered some of the details already, but I'll just kind of emphasize a couple other points that we strongly support the affordable housing strategy that staff has worked together. This really represents a lot of deep engagement from a diverse group of stakeholders. That's why it has such a broad range of topics. Also, as one of the other speakers said, it takes a broad range of approaches to make progress on affordable housing. There's sort of this broad framework of you need supply, you need subsidy and help for lower income housing, and then you need stability for community members. And so it's important to have and maintain strategies for all of those. And I think that another piece is that this isn't a code update. This is the starting place for conversation. You as council are going to sort of guide with the help of community and staff the direction of a lot of these policies. So I encourage you to think about it that way as a starting place. And then just a couple other things. Of course, we are supporting the affordable housing requirement. This will need to be implemented in TOD areas in 2029 because of some state requirements anyways, but we're already having these conversations in some of the land use code updates that are working their way through. So thank you for explicitly naming that. And of course, we want it to be balanced. So thank you for pairing that with other tools to make sure that it's feasible, that it works. And revenue is this other piece that is super critical. I don't think I need to say anything more because Dan before me said that so eloquently. And then I think I'll just end by saying thank you as well for including these strategies to include those most impacted by the housing crisis in decision making. There's a lot of strategies in there that sort of set up processes to do this. And then strategies to reduce costs and timelines for affordable housing are also critical. This can scale public dollars, and some of these solutions can and should be expanded to market rate development. But we can make these public subsidies go further in that way. So thank you again, and appreciate the conversation tonight. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that was our third and final speaker that will be allowed to speak in support of the affordable housing topic. And moving on to our next speaker is Kunal Chopra, who is joining us online. Mr. Chopra, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, your time begins now.
Great. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Kunal Chopra. I'm the CEO of Certivo, a Seattle-based technology company, and one of the participants in the city's Civic Innovation Challenge. I'm here tonight to voice my strong support for this program and the city's broader commitment to innovation. Programs like the City Civic Innovation Challenge do something that's hard to do in government. They create a bridge between entrepreneurship and public service. When a city invites entrepreneurs in to work on real civic problems, not through a traditional RFP, but through a living lab, where you're collaborating side by side with city staff, you get better outcomes. The entrepreneurs get to build something that actually works in practice, not just in theory, and the city gets to evaluate solutions in a low-risk pilot environment before committing to a full deployment. That's fundamentally different and a better model than buying something off the shelf and hoping it fits. The pilot approach lets the city test, learn, and refine before scaling, and it lets companies like mine prove value before asking for a bigger commitment. It protects taxpayer resources while still moving the city forward. And beyond the immediate results, programs like this send a signal to the broader entrepreneurial community that Bellevue is a place where innovation is welcome, not just in the private sector, but inside government itself. That kind of signal attracts talent, attracts companies, and positions this city as a leader in civic innovation. The mentorship, the partnership with other companies, it all reinforces that this region is uniquely positioned for exactly this kind of work. I can speak to this firsthand myself. Certivo builds AI-powered tools for managing vendor compliance, things like insurance certifications, cybersecurity policies, and other requirements organizations place on the vendors they work with. Through the Innovation Challenge, we've been working closely with both the procurement and cybersecurity departments at the city to understand the specific compliance problems they face. We didn't come in with a finished product and say, here, use this. We worked with the city staff to identify the right problems, shape the right solution, and then test it in a pilot capacity, with the goal of proving it works before moving into any kind of broader deployment. That process, problem identification, solution design, pilot, then scale, is exactly how innovation should work inside government, and it's exactly what this program enables. So I'd encourage the council to continue investing in this model, expand it, make it a permanent part of how Bellevue operates. It's good for the city, it's good for entrepreneurs, and it's good for the residents you serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Barb Wilson, who is also joining us virtually. Ms. Wilson, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Your time begins now.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Barb Wilson with Microsoft, and thank you for the opportunity tonight to speak in support of the updates to the city's multifamily tax exemption program. MFTE has been the single most effective tool for delivering workforce affordable housing in our region. The updates before you tonight are already working, and that's worth celebrating. The Wilburton sub-area plan is becoming a real success story. We're seeing strong developer interest, real momentum, and early uptake of the proposed MFTE supercharger. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because this council chose smart, supply-oriented policy. Microsoft appreciates the leadership it took to push Wilburton across the finish line, and we support these MFTE updates because they strike the right balance, increasing affordability while keeping projects financially viable. After drafting codes that work the moment they're passed and don't rely on future economic conditions to change or rents to increase to make projects feasible. As you look ahead to policies for HOMA and the upcoming Bellred work, we strongly encourage you to replicate what worked in Wilburton, especially the MFTE supercharger. Aggressive mandatory inclusionary requirements have stalled housing production in other jurisdictions within our region. When modest mandatory policies are considered, pairing them with strong incentives like MFTE is essential to keep housing supply moving. Bellevue's approach shows that affordability and production do not have to be in conflict. Tonight's action reinforces that leadership. Thank you for your continued commitment to housing. As the East Side's largest employer, we cannot overstate how critical this is to our employees, our community, and the long-term success of our entire region. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Neil Kumar.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and members of the community. I'm Neil Kumar, and I'm a 15-year-old freshman at Bellevue High School. I'm one of the 4 people who was selected to be part of the inaugural City of Bellevue Civic Innovation Challenge, and I was also the only student who was selected. Through being selected for this challenge, I was able to work directly with the City of Bellevue and the Bellevue College to pilot Find-A-AI at Bellevue College. Find-A-AI is an AI-powered lost and found system designed to help people recover their lost items more quickly and with less frustration. What stood out to me during this process was that this wasn't just a theoretical example. This challenge was just about as real as it gets, as I was given opportunities to pilot Find-A.AI at Bellevue College to impact more than 13,000 people. I also was able to impact the administrative staff at Bellevue College in their day-to-day lives. Additionally, I was able to collaborate with mentors and professionals who help me guide through implementation, user needs, and engagement. This is also really great for entrepreneurs because having such a strong framework for entrepreneurs to make their products fit in the city's ecosystem is really important for success. The impact of this work is very real. Lost items create stress, wasted time, and unnecessary costs for students, staff, and visitors. By making the lost and found process more efficient and accessible, Find-A.AI helps people to reunite with their important belongings. And it saves them stress, right? So more broadly, this experience showed me how innovation can directly improve quality of life in our city. It also demonstrated the value of investing in youth voices. As a 15-year-old, being trusted to work alongside city officials and a local college sent a powerful message that good ideas can come from anywhere and that Bellevue is willing to act on them. Programs like the Civic Innovation Challenge strengthen our community by connecting government, education, and residents to solve problems together to help people. By amplifying ideas from residents, such programs are able to address problems which residents face and can improve their lives. I'm incredibly grateful to the City of Bellevue, Bellevue College, and my mentors who made this opportunity possible, and I hope this challenge continues to grow and empower people in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Patience Malaba. And Ms. Malaba, if you're joining us virtually, could you raise your hand so I can identify you? Okay, I do not see her hand, so I'm going to move on to our final speaker on our list, which is Tim Hay.
I have relatively good and bad news. Which would you like me to start first, Mr. Mayor?
Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. I'm Tim Hay, obviously. I'll start with the good news. Although Bellevue isn't aware of its importance, we have within 1.5 miles of Bellevue Square a classic wetland, one worthy of study by those in various academic specialties. It's a wetland of approximately 8.5 acres, sandwiched between Northeast 8th and Bell Red Road at about 128th, just west of the golf course. Fed by 2 year-round creeks, the West Branch of Kelsey Creek and the larger Gulf Creek. This unnamed wetland should be recognized for what it is, an absolutely unique, full-spectrum piece of nature we all claim to revere. And it's almost in the heart of our city. This 8.5 acre critical area is home to coyotes, to tiny birds, to protected birds, hawks, blue herons, even bald eagles. A deer family finds its nighttime safety by sheltering beneath the ground-sweeping boughs of a specimen cedar tree in the wetland buffer behind our home of 61 years. I want you to know about this and other absolute wet gems we have in our midst. I hope and expect that you'll remember most of this when some important use asks to impede just a little into a wetland buffer. Death by 1,000 cuts. The inevitable will occur. And the bad news. Now, have any of you been reading the paper? I know you have. T-Mobile just dumped a lot of good local people. Eddie Bauer has declared bankruptcy. Microsoft and Amazon are laying off a big percentage of their Redmond, Bellevue, Seattle workers. These companies were our golden ticket, weren't they? So just where will all the people work who fill this pie in the sky plan to have 33,000 more units soon? Someday we will fill these units, but until then, it's a waste of tax revenue to employ people to plan for more of the same. Our golden ticket just got stepped on in the mud. This is retraction time. Please get used to it.
Mr. Hay.
Thank you, team.
Thank you. Mayor, that is the, well, actually, I'm sorry. I do see Ms. Malaba joining us online. Ms. Malaba, can you hear me?
Good evening, Mayor Malakushan, Deputy Mayor Hamilton, and council members. I am Patience Malaba, Executive Director of the Housing Development Consortium and co-chair of the East Side Housing Roundtable. And really, I'm here tonight to applaud your leadership as council in moving forward the MFTE updates within the code. We worked in collaboration with staff, with our partners across sectors, and we came to a consensus of moving this package forward. And we are pleased to see your deliberations that are intentional. They are reflective of the broad stakeholder consensus that's been engaged by staff, and we look forward to implementation. We're particularly proud of the Wilburton MFTE supercharger, which we all know has proven to be effective on the ground, and staff is justified to confine this work in Wilburton currently. And we are looking forward to continuous work. What we ask of the city is that as we move forward with MFTE updates, we will work alongside land use code updates in alignment. So it's all in parallel and there are no delays in between. And we know you understand that. So we are really pleased with the incredible work that you are moving forward, and we urge your adoption of the MFTE program tonight. And if I can take a point of privilege here in speaking in support of the affordable housing strategy that you will have a study session for tonight, we applaud the city staff for their work and look forward
Ms.
to
Malaba.
getting that adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, that is our 10th and final speaker, so I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Armaine. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Everyone said aye. The motion passes. The first study session of tonight, Innovation Forum Update. Please go ahead, Diane.
Good Deputy Mayor and Council. One of the very exciting initiatives that we've had over this past year has been the initiation of the Innovation Forum. This public-private collaboration includes members of our community, businesses, startups, nonprofits, and educational institutions. And I couldn't have done a better job than our two speakers this evening, Mr. Chopra and Mr. Kumar, in describing the attributes of this work. But we do want to keep it visible to you and to the public, to keep growing its reach for our partners, and also to be able to share some of the positive aspects of it and the value to the city and our collaborators. And with that, I will turn it over to Sabra Schneider, Chief Information Officer, who's joined by PJ Rodriguez, our Assistant Director of Information Technology, and Molly Bendel, our Program Manager for Innovation and Digital Equity. Sabra?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, City Manager Carlson. We're excited to be here tonight to talk with you all about the progress we've made on the Innovation Forum since we were last here in early June of 25. Tonight's session is information only. And we will be talking a little bit about the background of the formation of this, progress toward our co-created work plan, and then next steps, some things that you can expect over the coming 6 months or so. As you may remember, this program is designed to be very aligned with your vision for innovation for the city. We seek to bring together government, education, private business, startups who you heard from in public comments, nonprofits, and community members to help drive innovation both inside City Hall and outside City Hall. In an ideal world, it benefits both, and I think you heard a little bit about how we're experimenting with that with some of our challenge partners in comments. We hope this work will spark innovation internally. We also hope it will spark an environment here in the city of Bellevue where innovation can thrive, and we're excited to test new ideas and help new companies form here. This work has been grounded in partnerships from the start. As a brief bit of background, starting in fall of '24, we did stakeholder interviews across all these different interest groups. We did a couple internal and external focus groups, a public survey, and then we held a preview event in City Hall that some of you attended, where we asked the attendees kind of the same questions. What do you want the city to focus on? How do you want to be involved? What does this work mean to you? As you may remember, the community came up with 3 areas they really wanted us to partner with them and focus on, and we've been doing that. One of those areas is digital equity and access. They want to make sure that the innovation work lifts all boats in Bellevue and that everyone can participate, and we're thinking deeply about how to include folks. They also want to make sure this work is driven by community input. So what do we prioritize? Has the community taken a look at relevant policies? And they regularly talk to us about that work. And then last but not least, we want to drive innovation partnerships across the stakeholder groups. And we're starting to do that with things like our challenge and our events. And that work has been growing over time. As an example, our first innovation preview event, we had, I think, 50 people come that were not Bellevue staff, maybe 20 Bellevue staff. And at our innovation event last fall, the most recent event we've done, we had 275 attendees. So over that course of time, the participation has grown tremendously, which we're quite excited about. We're going to talk next about achievements and what we've done to deliver on the work plan that we adopted with the community at our second forum event, and I'm going to turn it over to Molly to talk about that.
Thanks, Sabra and Council. So building off of the innovation resolution and framework that Council adopted in July of 2025, the inaugural Innovation Exchange took place at City Hall on October 16th, 2025, where the mayor actually gave opening remarks. Thank you. The event hosted almost 300 attendees, as shown in this slide and as mentioned by Sabra previously, and programming included inspiring keynotes, lightning talks, interactive tracks, engaging workshops, and concluded with a vibrant evening plaza experience. And the rain held out, which was fantastic, mid-October. A standout moment that we all kind of chuckle about, but also really it resonates is when the previous director of Washington State Department of Commerce, Joe Wynn, actually said on a panel, "Less memos, more demos," acknowledging the speed at which he was seeing the city of Bellevue currently innovating. So we think that is something really to celebrate. Next slide, please. So along with the Civic Innovation Exchange in the summer of 2025, the City of Bellevue launched a community challenge for startups and community members to submit their ideas for helping to drive innovation and service delivery within the city and community. We are now actively working with 4 participants, 2 of which you heard from earlier tonight, to further this civic innovation work. Pilot projects for the Civic Innovation Challenge officially kicked off and began in October 2025 and will conclude at the end of February 2026, so just around the corner. Each participant has been paired with a design partner to collaborate and test their civic innovation solutions, and these partnerships include Certivo, who you heard from earlier, in partnership with Procurement and IT, has built an AI-supported dashboard for real-time vendor compliance to streamline rule-based notifications for expiring documents and missing approvals during the procurement process. Juganu, in partnership with Transportation and Bellevue College, aims to implement a smart lighting system to monitor not only lighting, but also curb management and traffic safety. Legislate, in partnership with the City Attorney's Office, has deployed an AI-powered dashboard for quicker ordinance lookup and compliance checks. And Find It AI, again acknowledging our youth participant, Neil, who is a Bellevue High School student, who spoke earlier, in partnership with Bellevue College, is testing a mobile AI lookup system that students and visitors alike can use to easily access and search lost items on campus. In addition to that, Find It is also striving to automate item intake and monitoring to help reduce Bellevue College's staff lookup time. And just kind of to summarize, overall, we're really excited for the continued partnership and shared learning, and want to say a special thank you to all of our inaugural partners who have learned and grown along with us. And with that, I will turn it over to BJ.
Thank you, Molly. As you may recall, and Sabra has mentioned already, is that there were 3 sub-teams that were formed to kind of help move us forward. Those were the 3 pillars. And again, just as a reminder, it was to support and enhance digital equity, augment policies and priorities. This is foundational components, basically the policies. What can we do to make sure that we're enabling? And we'll talk more about that because there's a couple of things that you passed that enable that. And then, of course, the grow our innovation systems, which is where the partnership is happening. Out of those 3 groups, we basically had 9 short-term goals. What we mean by those goals are those goals that we can accomplish within a span of a year. 5 of those have been completed, and let's talk more about that at the next slide. So just a couple of items to note in here. We did host the Innovation Exchange event last year. Molly talked about that a little bit, along with our Innovation Civics Challenge. We also had a partnership with Bellevue College to where we hosted Bellevue College hosted a Smart City Hackathon. This involved high school and college students in the region, as well as international students from South Korea. It was really kind of exciting event in there. And I mentioned also previously that there are some policies that you all adopted. So the innovation resolution was adopted by this council in 25. And Bellevue College also followed suit in adopting their own innovation resolution as part of that commitment. Internally, we did have an AI policy, operational policy that we adopted that was community informed. So we adopted that policy here also in 25. And on the digital equity side, we did have a device, hosted device drive during the Innovation Exchange, as well as hosting a small business workshop that talked a little bit about AI. Next slide. So of course, we always talk about the partnership in here is one of the key components. We are extremely fortunate in here that there has been a lot of interest, a lot of support across the community, across the public, across local businesses in this endeavor. And I just want to call out, we have a lot of volunteers that have helped realize some of the goals that we've accomplished. So I just want to call that out. We are excited to welcome our public partners in Washington State, King County, and Bellevue College. These are our founding partners, and we are looking to start up a living innovation lab. Hopefully that's in Bellevue College. But in order to do that, we want to expand our partnership across the region, right? So we want to seek out private partnership. We are excited for these future partnerships, and I'll pass it on to Sabre for what that next step looks like.
Absolutely. We're advancing almost all the things that we talked about in this presentation, and I want to highlight one advancement in digital equity that we expect to deliver in Q1 of this year. We are going to pilot a device distribution. So we're partnering with a nonprofit called PCs for People and our great partners in community development at Mini City Hall to put together an application process that will award 60 laptops that come with a year of free connectivity, some lightweight basic training, and a sort of a smooth handoff with our Bellevue Mini City Hall partners. We'll probably be announcing that sometime March, April timeframe. We're dotting the i's and crossing the t's on all the legal work, but we're pretty excited to share that as a model, both for City of Bellevue residents and for some of our partners in the county and the state long term. We plan to host a second Civic Innovation Challenge. One of the speakers earlier mentioned that it would be great to do that again. Bellevue College is interested in partnering with us for round 2, and emerging interest from King County and Washington State to do the same. So we think what we've started can be a model across the region. Again, making sure that this is a place people want to come and innovate, Bellevue and the region at large. Last but not least, we'll get a save the date on your calendar soon, but we're targeting June 3rd for our next Innovation Exchange. We've outgrown City Hall, so we are intending to do that in Maidenbower. We had to stop enrollment in our first exchange a couple days before it happened because we were going to be over capacity. So we're excited to be able to welcome more partners. We've started that planning with the 3 public sector partners that I mentioned. And then as PJ touched on, we're really seeking to grow this partnership. We're excited to create a living laboratory at Bellevue College that would be able to test smart city features in the wild and have students engaged in thinking about how do we use AI, how do we use these features before they go into prime time. And Bellevue College and our other government partners are excited in figuring out how to make that happen and then potentially how to spread it, like learn from what Bellevue does and grow it. So that's what's on tap for the next 6 or 8 months. As a reminder, this was information only, and we really appreciate your support of this work. And I will turn it back over to you, Mayor. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Sabra, Molly, and PJ, and everyone else. You had several slides to show all of our partners and all of our external stakeholders, so I want to thank them all. This is not just about innovation, to just we say we are innovating. This is helping people, improving access, equity, and how the city work day to day. So great job. I will go to first Councilmember Smadeveria.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this amazing update. I was reading the numbers, so like from 60 attendees to 273, that is quite a growth. Congratulations. And I'm really proud of especially our student winner. Neil, you did a really amazing job. And when I first met you, I just felt like you are such a bright star that's going to make our next generation really make the progress in our city. And then I'll truly also appreciate the work from the staff and especially community volunteers. This work would not be able to complete without your support. I do have just like two questions. May I ask that, Mayor?
Please.
Okay, one of the things I had wondering, because Saber, you actually mentioned that we are deploying, we're giving out device pilot pretty soon, and then how would the eligible low-income families able to learn about it and apply for it? Is there like websites, and how can they access that information?
Great question. There is not a website yet. We are working with our partners in community development and outreach and comms to put together a strategy for outreach. That's part of why we're doing the handoff at Mini City Hall. And you'll see more about that when we announce it. The community development folks and our partners in the communications office have been great about thinking through how we do that outreach and how we can partner with organizations that they already work with, as well as some of the nonprofits that have been longstanding parts of this innovation work. So we're trying to hit it from all those angles.
Thank you. And my last question would be, with the AI operational policy that's been placed for a few months, can you tell me what has been working really well, and then how that will be informed, I guess, the privacy policy review?
Great question. The privacy policy is next on our list of policies to work with the public on. And we did talk about it a bit with the public as we talked about the operational AI policy. The city, has been using AI for a very long time. The new implications of generative AI are what we really wanted to put some guardrails around. And that policy guides staff and our vendors on how Bellevue thinks about responsible AI. A great example of that I think you've heard from Director Rebecca Horner and her deputy Jake Hesselgesser on is our partnership with GovStream AI, where we really want to be able to track how they're using it, where data is coming from, a great deal of transparency around where solutions came. And that work is a model for how we've been using that AI policy to date. Although certainly with staff, as they think about kind of the everyday use of AI and productivity, that policy helps guide their work in that too.
Thank you. That's all my question. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you, Councilmember Smadeveria. Councilmember Breyer.
I just want to say how excited I am about this. I think this is going to be fantastic. It's going to set a model for the nation. I'm quite confident in that. And I think also it engages residents that are young, which is super fantastic because I think this program will really curate model citizens. And what more could we ask from our residents to be engaged and now help us find solutions to permitting that takes way too long. So this is incredible. So thank you so much for your work. That's all the feedback I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Breyer. Councilmember Bargava.
Yeah, equally excited. I think this is great. I really love the progress you made, the outcomes and the participation, really broad-based. I love the focus on a sort of tech-first approach to innovation, which is great. I also love the focus on digital equity, which I think is super important. So I really appreciate you making that one of your core sort of drivers. I'm very supportive of the lab idea, which I think is going to be a great place for us to sort of brew innovation, test and learn, and see how we can scale something up that works. And of course, kudos to the partners, the 4 partners you've chosen for the first set of pilots, and the young man sitting in the back there. Congratulations, do well to find it. Hopefully we can find something good. Then the only, I guess if I was to just frame one question, based on the pilots and the work and all of that you've done so far, looking out, maybe, of course, your second iteration is going to happen and all of that, but those are sort of all launches. But we look out 6 to 12 months. If you were to sort of, and you don't have to be specific yet, but even at a high level, what would be the outcomes from this for residents within our community that you think we would be able to change?
It's a great question. I'll hit on a couple things that one of our committees talked about today, actually. And one of those is we'd like to broaden the reach of our challenge recipients. So for example, the recipients, as they mentioned in public comment today, have been partnering with Bellevue staff, some of our startup volunteers, and in some cases, Bellevue College. We are hoping that if we are successful at creating that kind of living innovation lab at Bellevue College, that we can add to that mix local large companies, students, sponsored internships with some of those startups who are probably seeking support and help. And then we create this huge learning ecosystem at Bellevue College that benefits smart cities and potentially our other government partners as we learn together. We've also talked about, and we're trying to figure out the right partner to land this with, but we've talked about doing statewide training that would target parents and small businesses, and really thinking about folks that need to learn different innovative pathways and might be able to get online and learn in easier ways if we kind of really targeted and curated training. And then doing something like a First Saturday Innovation Day at Bellevue College. And with our other government partners, that could also be at public libraries or community colleges across the state. So that we really think about bringing people in to talk about how this can help them either in perhaps a first tech job or in their small business that they're already thinking about or in their parenting or community work. So we're trying to figure out the right partner to do that with. And hopeful to have more information about that to y'all the next time we connect.
That's awesome. Those are great outcomes. I think beyond just the opportunities it creates, which are great outcomes for the residents, the process of actually making that happen and the inclusion, that also is on its own a great outcome. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bargava. Councilmember Newenhouse.
Thank you, Mayor. Just adding to the kudos. I'm as excited now as I was excited when this first launched, so thank you so much for all of your great work. Thank you for the update. Thank you for Deputy City Manager Joe Todd as well. He was part of this brainchild to begin with, help get it launched. There's tremendous momentum here, excitement here. I'm just very excited to see where this ends up going. And I think the amount of participation and partnerships and some of the real outcomes of this is going to be really beneficial, both immediate and long-term. So thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Newenhouse. Councilmember, Deputy Mayor Hamilton.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. I love this project. I just think it's one of the smartest things that we're doing in Bellevue. The cost-benefit ratio seems so favorable for the city. I imagine us getting back more than we invest by far. I really like the digital equity goals and all that has already been accomplished. I hope that we keep this focus area as a top priority and look for ways to add goals and enhance the ones already identified. Thank you for the focus on AI, since this is a quickly emerging and impactful technology. It's important that we watch closely and respond appropriately as it expands. I'm also really impressed with the work around enhancing the innovation ecosystem. Bellevue has a really robust innovation ecosystem, and tapping into it and enhancing it along the way is the exact right move. Really excited to hear back from you when the first group of Civic Challenge partners complete their pilot programs. Certainly thrilled that Neil was here to talk about his today. You selected a great group and their projects are interesting and hopefully impactful. Great work plan for 2026. Just think this is all super exciting, really excited to see what comes next. So look forward to having you back and keep us posted. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I also just wanted to appreciate this started with listening. You just start listening to everyone and then move to action. So I really appreciate that. You work with community all along and you are continue doing that. So that's great. It was an idea. Now is a pilot. Hopefully we see the impact of that, and hopefully that would be the next step to see what amazing impact you are going to have. Like Councilmember Breyer, I am also convinced that Bellevue can position itself as a regional model or nation model for responsible civic innovation, especially around AI and digital equity. I have 3 short questions. If you can go to slide 9. you offered AI for small businesses workshop. I am wondering what level that was. Was it just ChatGPT prompts, do this for me, and maybe some help to create a website, or was a deeper level how you can use AI to maybe improve your sales or marketing or pricing?
Great question. It was an evening event that was part of the Innovation Exchange Day in October. So during the day, residents, everyone was invited to the whole event. But during the day, we had an afternoon that was focused on kind of a promptathon, we nicknamed it, where we did teach people prompting skills, kind of beginning, intermediate, advanced. So that was a 3-part workshop, and we had some small business owners take advantage of that. What the bullet on this slide is referencing was one we did in the evening, because we thought some small business owners might not be able to come during the day. And it was fairly short. Those were designed to be kind of lightning workshops, so it was not as in-depth as what you're describing. I think we did a 30 minutes on here's some kind of quick ways, some quick things to think about. That said, part of what we intend to do when we find the right partner with training is think about how do we curate online curriculum and then supplement that with our, whatever day it ends up being, Innovation Saturdays at Bellevue College and other places for people for whom online learning might not be their favorite. So we're going to try to, look at that from both angles.
Great. That actually leads to my next question. Next slide, partners. Do we have any private partners so far that you are working? Is there a list? Can you share names?
Yeah, great question. We have been really lucky in that, and I'm just going to go back here. We have been really lucky in that all the private partners on this slide and more have come to our forum, have offered training, have had a booth, have contributed in quite a few ways. And we're hoping to deepen that relationship with some of our private sector partners. T-Mobile and Microsoft have been early thought leaders with us. Chasm Labs, King County Housing Authority, these are folks that have been at the table with us talking about this work for a long time. IBM and Centric helped put on some of that training. But as this work matures and our vision for a living laboratory at Bellevue College matures, we're seeking to kind of figure out who wants to partner on the next iteration of this with us. And we're excited to figure that out.
That was great. I think you also answered my third question in this question. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Please come back soon and give us another update. We are all excited to hear what impact we are seeing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your support.
Thank you. I think we can have 12 minutes break and come back by 7:20, and then we have the second study session. Back, we have our second study session, Affordable Housing Strategy. Our city manager is going to introduce that.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. The Affordable Housing Strategy is a very important body of work that will help us provide a roadmap for the city's ability to continue to work towards preserving affordable housing and increasing the supply of affordable housing, and also address other community goals related to our housing broadly between now and 2032. Through a very extensive engagement process, staff gathered input from a broad range of interests that included people within our community, some of whom are living in affordable housing within the city, businesses, developers, both market rate and affordable, and community organizations, et cetera. The input is broadly reflected in the goals and the strategies of the draft plan that you'll hear about today. And it's also reflected in the comprehensive menu of potential actions. The focus tonight is on receiving council input to these goals and strategies, and additionally the actions. with a focus perhaps on the subset of the high priority implementation actions identified for the next 7 years. I do want to recognize that there was a limited amount of time for review of the action plan, and we're not pressing for council direction tonight. This, we believe, will allow for additional dialogue with the community and input from the council. So our staff is prepared to share some thoughts on that and their next steps this evening in the presentation. And with that, I will turn this over to Bianca Siegel, our Director of the Office of Housing, and Hannah Bondmiller, Senior Affordable Housing Planner. Bianca?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. Great to be back here with you. We are really excited to be sharing the draft affordable housing strategy with you tonight for your feedback. So the strategy is focused on helping to meet the need for affordable housing in our growing community, particularly via income-restricted affordable housing, as well as additional supportive approaches. This is ensuring that our workers can live nearby, keeping people stably housed and out of homelessness, helping families to grow and thrive in the community. All of that requires a really robust set of tools. I'm going to ask Hannah to take us through the presentation tonight and look forward to more discussion after.
Thank you, Council. Our objective tonight is really to orient you to this project, to provide an overview of how we were able to engage the community throughout this year-long update. We'll provide a high-level overview and highlight some of the select actions, and then, as mentioned, we'll close out by talking a little bit about next steps and implementation. Starting with some key background, the Affordable Housing Strategy is the city's strategic plan on housing. It is focused on our near-term actions. We have an existing strategy that was adopted in 2017, and that was implemented over the past 7 years. And as part of that was the subsequent Next Right Work program. The strategy focuses heavily on that income-restricted affordable housing, but as City Manager Carlson mentioned, we also address other housing priorities such as stability, access, and overall affordability. The update was launched last November, November 2024, in order to build on that past implementation success, as well as to continue to address the need for affordable housing in our community. As part of that update launch, a new need-based affordable housing target was established by Council, and that is based on a portion of our planned 10-year overall housing growth. And in line with the need, the target does weight towards that deeply affordable housing under 50% AMI. The update draws on existing city guidance in the strategic target areas and the comprehensive plan and seeks to implement the policy guidance within the comp plan. There are 5 overarching goals that structure the strategy and elevate different community and policy priorities. Affordable housing is focused on that income-restricted affordable housing. Housing equity is focused on and centers on addressing inequities and disparities. Housing stability aims on keeping people in their homes and neighborhoods. And housing for unique needs aims to create units for all different types of households and individuals. Finally, supply and diversity focuses on creating more housing overall and more types of housing in our community. Because we do have a deep need for that under 50% AMI housing in our community, as reflected in our target, the update does intentionally prioritize strategies and actions within the affordable housing goal area. They help us move towards the target, and so they are elevated within the plan. Also important to this update is that there are different needs and solutions at different levels of affordability, and that's something that we've been attentive to in order to achieve and move towards the strategy sub-targets. While our 50 to 80% AMI housing may be able to be incentivized or feasible through regulations and the right conditions, we know that that under 50% AMI housing needs public investment to cover the cost of development and ongoing operating subsidies. Funding for these deeply affordable units comes from a variety of different sources, including local funds, county funds, state funding, and federal tax incentives. And while local funding makes up an incredibly important part of that funding stack, we cannot make these deeply affordable units pencil on our own. But our local funds can play a very important role to leverage and attract other public and private investment, for example, by buying down already subsidized units to deeper levels of affordability. This project had a very strong policy and community engagement foundation that we built on from the comprehensive plan update. And the specific engagement within this plan aimed to refine what we heard as community priorities into those strategies and actions, and further to think about how we prioritize across these multiple objectives. This engagement focused on new and inclusive ways to get different groups of people out, including our organizational partners, the public at large, and those who are most impacted by housing issues. We've highlighted some notable outcomes on the right hand of the screen, including reaching 150 people with lived experience through listening sessions as part of our pilot community facilitator program. And while they had to leave, we did have 2 of our community facilitators who were able to join at the beginning, so just want to thank them for their support tonight. We did tailored and phased engagement throughout the course of the plan. We engaged through educational public events, through that community facilitator program, through surveys to both organizational partners and the general public, and through presentations and workshops with our partners. This has led us to have broad reach over the course of the plan, hearing from over 60 organizations. Our last phase of feedback was in the last quarter of 2025, where we solicited feedback on those draft strategies with the public, our organizational partners, and with council at our last October 21st study session. And that input was used to refine the strategies and then prioritize the actions and identify those high priority actions. Moving on to the document itself. The strategy contains 5 high-level policy outcomes and 24 strategy efforts that help achieve those goals. The action plan is a flexible tool for implementation. It contains the actions, which are the specific tasks for implementation, and the metrics for tracking and reporting on our progress. Of the 81 actions within the action plan, we've elevated 20 as high priority actions. These high priority actions are those that have high impact and high alignment with community identified priorities and goals. And the objective here is to emphasize those over the implementation of the 7 years, not necessarily implement them all first, but phase them over that 7-year planning period. That subset of 20 high priority actions is illustrated on the screen as they are phased over the planning period. As you can see, some are already on our work plan, while others are scheduled for implementation in the near, mid, and longer term. Of the 80 total actions within the action plan, and including those 20 high priority actions, we published within the supplement details for implementation. This includes the lead department, estimated investment level, and impact. We've also, for each strategy, have implementation metrics shown at the bottom of the screen for this strategy, and that helps us track progress and report. At our October 21st study session, Council wanted to better understand impact towards our new affordable housing target. The chart on the screen shows the potential impact of our current pipeline of units and what we anticipate producing from those priority actions. That's illustrated in blue, and that's shown against that 2035 need-based affordable housing target shown in the orange outline. A few takeaways to highlight here is that we expect to build more affordable housing overall than the last decade, and estimate over 4,000 affordable units in the next 10 years. And that's illustrated on the right hand of the screen. At the 50 to 80% AMI level, we anticipate that we will exceed our sub-target, and this is primarily due to actions related to land use tools and tax incentives that we've been working on. And then lastly, we anticipate greatly increasing our under 50% AMI production over the past and our existing pipeline, estimating up to 1,600 units being produced. But given that we do have a significant need-based target, we'll need to continue to work towards that target over future development cycles. And so as we are moving towards these goals, it's very important for us to continue to assess progress towards that target and the other key metrics within the plan. The action plan contains both outcome and implementation metrics. The outcome metrics are at the goal level. They look at high level impact within the community, while the implementation metrics are looking at performance of the different strategy implementation. On the screen are just a subset of outcome metrics from each of the goal areas. And as part of implementation, it's key for us to come back to council every 6 months to report on these key metrics and what actions will be brought forward or have made progress. For the next section, we'll walk briefly through each of the goal areas and call out some select actions for your attention. Under the affordable housing goal area, this is highly emphasized within the plan. It's the goal area that's going to move us towards that new affordable housing target by building and preserving new income-restricted units. One strategy to call out here is a new focus on acquisition and preservation, specifically a strategy to acquire that naturally occurring affordable housing to preserve it as permanently affordable. A specific task that we've identified under that strategy is to work with Arch to help provide expedited short-term loans for acquisition for affordable housing developers so that they can move to acquire projects at market speed. Another strategy under this goal that we heard a lot of support for is exploring new revenue sources. This strategy in action would really be an exploration, thinking about what predictable and ongoing tools might be able to help support our affordable housing needs. This could be levies, fees, increment revenue, and bonding, and council would be involved in how those exploratory discussions advance. The comprehensive plan added new policies around housing equity, recognizing the legacy of disparate and disproportionate housing policy and outcomes. Some implementing strategies to call out here are a new focus on alternative ownership models, including a specific action to think about how we can better incentivize affordable homeownership within our community. We also want to continue the inclusive engagement that we've heard a lot of positive support for in this plan by finding ongoing opportunities for folks with lived experience to continue to help be involved in these decisions. For housing stability, this is not necessarily the ability of a person to stay in one unit, but the ability of somebody to stay in and continue to afford their neighborhood. And housing stability was something that was really emphasized in the engagement stories that we collected. Calling out a couple of strategies and actions relating to accessing and navigating the affordable housing system. Some actions include increasing navigation services either at the city or by partnering with our nonprofit organizations, and improving some of the existing resources that Arch offers by making them into a more central, user-friendly hub for affordable housing seekers. Finding available and affordable housing can be extra challenging for folks who may have unique housing needs and need housing that's designed or suited for them. This goal area focuses on that, and a specific action that we've identified under inclusive design is to do a review of our code and standards with the lens of accessibility features, thinking about how we can incorporate key features so homes can be visited by those with disabilities and easily retrofitted. We're also thinking about the needs of larger households and families by thinking about how we can prioritize funding to those larger unit sizes. And then our final goal area we want to highlight is housing supply and diversity. We know that housing supply and having a diversity of units is really key to overall market affordability. Reducing the cost to build was the #1 thing that we heard from our development partners in our partner surveys that we did over the course of the plan. So some key actions within this goal area are to continue to work on our middle housing efforts by thinking about amendments to minimum lot sizes, as well as thinking about new and innovative ways to reduce the cost to build. And one specific action we've identified here is how to leverage wood frame construction. And I'll pass it over to Bianca to close us out.
Thanks. So you've heard in the presentation, of course, the affordable housing strategy had a really robust engagement process. We've heard from a lot of different folks over the 14 or so months that the plan has been in development, and that's reflected in the plan. And in the last week and a half since the full document has been published, we've heard from a bunch of folks that still have some questions and might benefit from some additional time to better understand what's in it and be able to ask those questions. So we welcome the opportunity for additional discussion. We anticipate scheduling probably 2 additional information sessions in the near future. We're happy to answer questions from folks, provide additional clarification about what's included in the plan, have a conversation about the recommendations. We look forward to hearing the council's feedback tonight, and then we will follow up with the community and come back to you with that information for further consideration. We want to note also, just in terms of moving forward with the plan, that the implementation is not just in the Office of Housing, it's really a citywide effort. A number of departments are involved in that. And so we would coordinate with them in moving any of the items forward. Any cost-related impacts or potential future revenue would, of course, be part of your budget process. And then we will have twice yearly reports to the council that will address progress made on implementing the items in the plan, as well as a discussion of upcoming work plan items and priorities. And we, of course, very much invite feedback. Council would also be asked to weigh in on the initiation of any of the implementation actions that involve code changes, allocation of funding, any of the broad range of things that the council already is responsible for decisions on. We would come back to you for feedback at the beginning, and then, of course, decisions as any of those projects move forward in the future. I think that's it. We are available for questions and discussion.
Thank you so much, Bianca and Hannah and the whole team, the whole Bellevue team, for the work that went into this and for the amount of listening you have done that has been reflected in the whole material. Great job presenting tonight. Everyone, I think, agrees on the goal. We want Bellevue to be a place where people can afford to live, stay, and build their future. So I appreciate the whole intention behind this. Deputy Mayor, we'll start with you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. You have put a ton of work into this update, and it really shows. Housing affordability is the top issue for our city and really everywhere else in the world. Our community has been very clear that they are struggling to afford their housing, and they need us to address it. Improving housing affordability is a tremendous challenge. It takes the deep work that you have done here to help us meet the challenge. I'm impressed with your work and generally supportive of the draft. Having said that, I think we do need to take some more time to engage stakeholders with an extra focus on housing suppliers, market rate and nonprofit, to be sure that our final affordable housing strategy can pass the simple test that the Seattle Times editorial board implored our legislature to use. In it, they said that if a policy makes housing more costly or takes longer to build, don't pass it. Consider an alternative. Enact policies that pencil in today's market, not aspirational measures that might work down the line. Today's market is the next 6 years. I would like us to use that test and others as we complete our stakeholder engagement and prepare to adopt the final housing strategy. The strategies within the affordable housing goal section look very good. The strategies within the housing equity section also look very solid. Just one clarification, if you could clear something up for me. The draft affordable housing strategy sets a target of ensuring that at least 10% of units are affordable to those making under 10% but there's a conflict and they draft affordable action plan that has at least 10% of units in all neighborhoods should be affordable to those making less than 80%. And I appreciate the conversation we had earlier today, but if you might just address that so that everybody can be clear.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for pointing out the discrepancy. Within the action plan, the statement that at least 10% affordable to those making under 80% AMI, that is the correct metric. Within the full draft strategy, it was a typo to write 10%. We'll correct that in the final version.
Okay,
Thank you for
awesome.
your
Great,
attention to
thank
that.
you. Then moving to the housing stability section, I think it would be really helpful to see some examples of potential tenant protections, because I have some concerns that might not be well-founded, and I think a couple of examples could help me clear that up. I do have some concern about HS.4, the rental registration and inspection program. I have some serious concerns about increased costs and administrative burdens generally, and the challenges with complying, especially on small-scale landlords. I would just as soon this strategy be removed tonight, as there is limited evidence that the Seattle program has succeeded in improving the quality of rental units, compliance costs are high, and the impact, again, on smaller landlords are more than they can continue to bear. But we have some more time to engage with stakeholders and collect data, so I have no issue with giving this strategy some time to prove its value if it's possible. The Housing for Unique Needs section looks good, and I'm especially pleased to see us addressing the need for family-sized affordable housing. The housing supply and diversity section also looks good. Nothing to add on that. Just one final thing, and that is that I don't want the final action plan to include any action that goes beyond our adopted state legislative agenda. For example, HS.1.4, I believe should be removed from the action plan and included in a future legislative agenda if council decides it should be. I think it's out of place in the action plan. I have the same comment for HS.2.3 as it belongs in a future adopted federal legislative agenda if it belongs anywhere. So that's it for me. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilmember Smadaveri.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, by the way, amazing job, Bianca, Hannah, and the whole team for the comprehensive work, especially congratulations, Hannah, for winning the MLK Award. Your service and the whole team service to go the common good is noticeable and it's impressive. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Some comment, I want to actually share my gratitude for you to actually reach out to over 150 people with living experience, because their experience about the community is very special. Because as we know, teachers, essential workers, and seniors, they are the pillar of our community. Without them, Bellevue would not be the same. And I am so grateful you putting this hard work to showcase how we are moving together to a Bellevue that's affordable for everyone. I just have a few questions, kind of clarifying it. The first question is along the line with Deputy Mayor about the rental registration, because in the notes it says it's going to be thoughtful design to mitigate impacts. Is there a timeline when would the council see like the details of that design?
I'll start. So that strategy, just to be clear, is not one of our identified high priority action items. So it is not scheduled. It is on a list of potential actions to consider in the future. If we were to move forward with that at some point, it would involve, of course, a lot of discussion with stakeholders and council and data analysis and further work. So it's there to note that that can be an opportunity to address some of the housing stability concerns. It is not a commitment to move forward with the program without further analysis.
Okay, so we would have an opportunity to assess it to see if it's actually an effective tool, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then you said we're gonna able to see some data about 6 months.
We are planning to bring updates back to the council twice a year on implementation progress on the affordable housing strategy. And so part of that will include available data on progress, updates on implementation actions, and discussion about next steps.
Great, thank you. And my last question is, I mean, as you see, there's a lot of unpredictability for developers and then for the stakeholders that's building the affordable housing. Since I think that, is there any opportunity for us to expand to streamline the process for any type of project that includes affordable housing, have a faster process, so we have a way actually support the production rather than slowing it down?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Sumaduweria. The city has established an expedited permitting program for 100% affordable projects. That's been shown some early success. We do have an action within the plan to continue to support that expedited permitting program and to potentially use the staff expertise to see if there's ways that we could expand the eligibility to further utilize those efficiencies.
Thank you. That's all my question. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember Sumadeveria. Councilmember Bargava.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to reiterate gratitude for the tremendous effort for 14 months to develop what I think is a really thoughtful and comprehensive affordable housing strategy. And I cannot overstate the importance of this work for our city and for our region. It is God's own work. So thank you. I also really appreciate the engagement that you have done through the course of this process, especially through the community, through the stakeholders who are building this, are going to help partner with us, the folks with lived experiences, Councilmember Sumadeveria called out. It helps innovate and makes faster progress and more resonant progress as well. So appreciative of that. I also want to start with some really, really positive things. Really like the focus on home ownership, the expedited permitting programs, and the things you've laid out in your strategy are really great. I love the idea of focusing on the funding aspect of affordable housing. I think you've got that spot on. I also really feel like the inclusion of stability, equity, and unique needs beyond just production and retention of housing is a really broad base. So I want to give you kudos and say it loud and clear that this is great work. Thank you. It's really important that I want to note that you have laid out 81 actions, but you've only prioritized 20 of those in our current draft for the next 3 to 5 years, as I've understood from what I've read. You're not suggesting the remaining 50 are not important, but you don't think our focus should be on those, correct?
So the other remaining actions within the plan still do have a associated phase that we think that they could be implemented during. The high priority actions are anticipated to be implemented across those 7 years as well. What we are trying to call out is that we believe that those actions specifically have the greatest impact, particularly in number of units, and the most alignment with what we heard from the community conversations around what should be prioritized. So the attempt is to make sure that those 20, what we think may be the most impactful actions, are elevated while the other ones are still considered for implementation.
I got it. Helpful. I think it's really important to note that, I mean, one of the things even the city manager Carlson laid out was that though the engagement has been great, I think the last bit of the actual action plan came across in the last 3 weeks, and I think a higher level of engagement with stakeholders, and you've noted that there's going to be opportunity for that. So I really appreciate that and reiterate that as well. So thank you for what you're going to do here, because we've received a ton of feedback about the places where folks didn't quite follow the rationale, the root cause, why do we want to do this in Bellevue? Some examples are, for example, the piece that Deputy Mayor talked about, the registration program. We've seen the challenges that Seattle has had with it. We do not want to create an opportunity where we restrict the amount of housing and affordable housing, especially we have in the market for folks who might be smaller landlords, and prevent them and create friction for them. Similar is the thinking on finding the balance between fairness of eviction and eviction processes, and then creating sort of what could be possible friction for or impedance for small landlords to come in and put their units in the market. So I think finding those balances and thinking about those would be areas that I would be really, as sort of reflections on the study session, places where I'd like to learn more. I think rental assistance and rent control is another area where the puts and takes and what the outcomes will be. We've always felt that the rental assistance program allows for higher levels of production of housing and doesn't create the impediments. So something that it'd be just great to get more deeper point of view as we come together as a council to sort of decide on these critical things that I think have very long-term impacts on the production of housing, the velocity, and the simplicity of what Deputy Mayor said about can it be built and can it be built quickly are really good yardsticks to use, for us to think about. And then very briefly, you've talked about the focus on mandatory affordable paired with other policies. I know your intent is to keep this flexible and open, but the idea of incentive-based opportunities in different parts of the city, I think we should keep that on the table. And let's just, as you iterate on this, flush that out so it's clear. And very quickly, the last couple things. You put a lot of great thought into what you call the high priority actions. The only ones that I thought worth considering are the acquisition, of land, especially around transit, which has probably long periods of time required for that to come to fruition or longer periods. I think starting as early as possible to create those opportunities might be a win for us in the long term. So putting that in maybe consider that for priority right now would be one suggestion I have. And the other thing is, of course, I really love the idea of shepherding and creating faster permitting and funding sort of processes with the city for affordable units. I would encourage us to think about that from a broader lens of all units to get faster processing and permitting. And just a question for you, does that mean that if you have affordable units, you would move to the front of the line for permits? Is that what you're thinking here?
I think there are a number of ways to approach that. We would have to talk about it with our colleagues in development services. There is already a dedicated team that works with affordable housing projects, and those have been expedited as a result in a really effective way.
Okay.
And so we'd look for just additional ways to build on that success.
Okay, I'd just love to learn more as you think about that. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Bargava. Councilmember Newenhouse.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. And I, too, want to thank you for all the great work that you've put into this. This is a large body of work, challenging, a lot of moving parts. Really appreciate the amount of outreach that you've done as well. Thank you for putting all the organizations on there. You probably knew I was going to ask that, so thank you for putting that on there, all the different organizations. And it's, and it shows really a clear, robust outreach, which is really good to see. And we continue to, Bellevue continues to work really hard to expand housing options within our city. It's the right thing to do. It's the right goal. And I'm proud to keep moving this work forward. But I also want to make sure as we move forward that we're careful not to, as I see, make mistakes that other municipalities have had. Or have made. And while there is so much good work in here, and I don't want that to be lost in this conversation because there is a lot of great work. Everything from the centralized user-friendly services to the expanding housing navigation services, which I really like, the incentives for affordable housing, home ownership, the land use tools, et cetera, those are all really good things. But as I'm going through this, to me, it just feels like a lot of regulation, really heavy regulation, potentially. Might not be in that top 20, but I think that's what concerns me, and it concerns some of the feedback that we've been getting from a lot of different stakeholders, especially through the rental registration, the inspections, expanding compliance bureaucracy. And that's, to be completely transparent, that's what I was concerned about with the Office of Housing when we first started talking about this. That this would become a very bureaucratic kind of institution When I've always think of Bellevue as being very fluid, being able to pivot very quickly and be able to move quickly to create more, not only affordable housing, but housing in general. And I don't want us to lose that. I think that's been one of our key signature pieces that have really been helpful for us in the past. So, and the reason I get so concerned about the regulation is that typically it hurts the small landlords. They leave the market, the rental supply shrinks, rents go up, and then several elements of the draft plan, I think, risk going down that path potentially. Maybe not now, but potentially. And I think that's what so much concern here. I really want a Bellevue plan, I guess is what I'm saying. And what I'm seeing right now feels more like a Seattle plan than it does a Bellevue plan. So I'll be looking for that in the future. As I mentioned about the outreach, all the number of great stakeholders and partners that you did talk to, there was two I didn't see on there. I was wondering if you did reach out to them to give them an opportunity to give some feedback. The Rental Housing Association of Washington and the Washington Multifamily Housing Association. Did you get their thoughts at all on the plan?
Councilmember, I would want to double check. I would think if it did not make that excerpted list that we may not have heard from them as part of either our workshops or our survey.
Okay. Well, I would encourage you, because we are going back out, we are having more conversations, rightly so, because a lot of the stakeholders had not seen some of these actions and want to weigh in. So I would please encourage you to do that. And then after you drafted the strategies and plan and put that into form and present it this evening, did you share the strategy and the, well, it seems like you didn't, you maybe shared some of the plan, but not the strategies. Is that correct?
During our final phase of feedback in the last quarter of 2025, we did share the full draft strategy list with our organizational partners, the public as part of our open house and our survey, and it was included in the council's study session. That did not have the same level of detail as the action plan. So I think we are seeing some requests for some additional time to sit with that level of detail.
Okay. Well, I would encourage you to do that. I don't think they knew it or were aware of it. And again, as I believe, as my colleagues have shared, why we have received so much concern and questions regarding elements of this plan that they had not seen before. So, and I don't want that to derail us from doing good here. I want to keep this moving forward, but the only way we do that, I think, is being as transparent as possible and keeping everybody, on the train as we're leaving the station here. So, appreciate you doing that. Some of the methods that were suggested, and I think some of my colleagues have mentioned this, but I'm going to mention again about preserving housing stability, I think encourages policies that are proven to worsen affordability and restrict housing supply. So HS 1.3 mentions to create a policy to stabilize rent increases and land use incentive affordable units. What concerns me there, so first, the state already has a rent increase limit with limited exemptions, and attempting to expand this policy to a local level could potentially be a violation of state law prohibiting local rent control. I would defer to our city attorney on that, but that is my understanding. And then creating a rent increase limit for land use incentive affordable units is likely to reduce the overall creation of proper maintenance of the units as well, and that is a concern. Because as funds are restricted, housing providers lose their ability to properly operate their business, and that could potentially worsen our housing crisis. And then HS 1.4 mentions the support state legislation for reasonable expanded tenant protections. Again, the legislature, I think, has an extensive set of tenant protections already, and policies that point to where a lot of small housing providers are going out of business because they are not able to keep up with all of the regulations that are coming from Olympia. So encouraging the expansion of these policies, I think, will further harm housing production potentially in Bellevue. And again, it could drive those smaller providers out of the market, which I do not want to see happen at all. So, and then concluding here, I'll talk about, I think what we know works are incentives. And I'd like to see more incentives here because it is proven time and time again that it works. Tools like, as we've heard during oral communications tonight, MFTE work, the FAR bonuses work, the fee waivers work, the expedited and permitting, which I know we're already doing, but that works too. And all of that produces housing. They make projects feasible, they bring units online faster, and vouchers remain probably the single most effective and immediate way to stabilize households. So I'd like to see an emphasis there. These are proven approaches that align with state law, deliver results without unintended consequences. And several items in the plan as well, I think, need more clarity. Because on some of them, I could see them being beneficial, and others I could see potentially maybe not being what we want to see in Bellevue. So I would try and look through some of these outside of the 20, look a little bit harder and give a little bit more context in terms of what some of these plans would look like. And I think you're doing that as you get this input as well, so that's really good. And then with all of this, I think we just need to avoid that kind of mission creep. Again, getting to some of these potential ideas that are, maybe are, being on this council for 2 terms, sometimes, you think some things that may seem at the time innocuous, and then they come back. And they come back in different ways that you didn't expect them. Not necessarily negative, not necessarily positive, but I think for this to be successful, we all need to know what this is going to look like in the future, that we have clarity in terms of what that looks like. So bottom line, straightforward, is yes to incentives, vouchers, faster permitting, and streamlined design review, but be, very much a no on mandates, rent control, rental registration, and anything that's really undefined that does not produce housing. That's our number one goal, is to produce housing and produce as much affordable housing as possible and as needed in the city of Bellevue. So that is my feedback. I know that was a lot. Thank you so much for answering my questions. And again, I'm going to reiterate, some of those comments there do not take away at all from the great work here. And I really look forward to continue to working with you, as well as you working with the other partners to, help us fully flesh this out going forward and make sure that, this is a win for everybody as we create more housing and a more affordable housing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Neuenhaus. Councilmember Breyer.
Yes, thank you for the diligent coordination that you've done to compile this list of a variety of tools to help enabling housing affordability. In fact, it's not unfound in me that you are so good at coordinating, Bianca, you managed to match your water bottle with your necklace. And you look fabulous, might I add. You too, Hannah. So it's my understanding that the scope of this discussion is going to be the high 20 priority items, but in the interest of time, will say that systemically I agree with the ideal outcomes listed here, or the intended outcomes rather, but some of the actions I need clarification on. So I'll begin with those items. Affordable Housing 5.1, where it states, expand affordable housing through inclusionary zoning and fee in lieu as supported by economic analysis. I appreciate that you qualified that sentence with what is economically viable. For me, housing affordability is critical, but not if it delays or blocks housing development entirely. So to be clear, I don't want to kill this, but what I want to understand is that, is there an opportunity to ensure that there are bonuses or other mechanisms that could be paired with this to guarantee economic viability? Because in the chart, this is compartmentalized as development incentive, but it also states mandatory inclusion. So the lines seem a little blurred there, and just wanted to gain some clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Council Member. For that item, age 5.1, this is looking at a variety of land use tools within our TOD area. Part of this action was spurred by some state legislation that came about last year that does require us to look at mandatory affordability provisions within our TOD areas. So part of this intent is to implement that bill. This item, as well as any land use code change that would go forward, would come back to council as part of a process for council launch, in which you'd have input on scoping and priorities of that specific land use code amendment, and then would come back to you for final approval. So being able to scope some of those considerations, as well as project feasibility and different priorities, would be your prerogative when that came back to you during implementation.
Excellent, okay. I also want to commend the explicit prioritization of home ownership. I think this is fantastic and the kind of sustainable, long-term, bold vision we need. So that was excellent. Next item is AH 7.3, exploring new local revenue sources for affordable housing. I do want to exercise fiscal responsibility here and efficiency, so I want to make sure that we're getting good use of the funds that we've already got a hold of. Do we have any metrics in place that show our dollars, what dollars are putting in and what the intended outcome is that we've sought out?
Yes, via our current funding programs?
Yes.
We do, and actually, you'll be getting more information about that in about a month, a little later this month, as we talk about our funding recommendations for the next round. But we do track the funding levels and the outcomes very carefully.
Okay, excellent. Looking forward to seeing that. A levy, I think, is cool. I think this allows our residents of Bellevue to decide on something. This is something I'm open to considering. I've heard that there's broad-based support for it. I think a levy could bear witness to this as opposed to just increasing taxes. Next item is AH 7.4, advocate at the state level for new local revenue tools like an authorized REIT increase. I want to be cautious in introducing new taxes when residents and a lot of the folks I spoke to have expressed explicit opposition to this. I will say, though, securing additional revenue for affordable housing is an outcome that I support. So if members of our business community really want to avoid these taxes at all cost, which I can understand, I think this opens up an opportunity to bridge that with private partnerships. So I try to explore that a little bit with our private partners. HS 2.4 is the next item. Work with Arch to create a centralized rate forecast hub and creating search tools. Canonizing anything and digitizing everything is amazing, so thank you for this. Is that my cue to hurry up?
No.
Okay. Housing for unique needs. So Washington State Building Code is applied to permitted construction, which, according to my understanding, adopts accessibility provisions. If we're already ensuring ADA compliance for our buildings, what is informing the housing for unique needs access that's been laid out? And I ask this with sincere curiosity, not out of malicious dismissal or anything like that.
And this is related to the visitability standards. Is that correct, Councilmember?
Yes, I think one of the access, actually I have the here, it's one of the last, towards the end, one of the accesses that is laid out is unique housing needs. I think just it was a more general question as opposed to the specific points.
Yes, so for unique housing needs, we have two strategies within them. One is focused on more inclusive design, which is really setting standards that particularly allow seniors, folks with disabilities, and those who have other access requirements. And so while in that strategy, we're not proposing any specific code changes at this time, we are proposing some actions to further explore what work the city could do. So that includes just doing a code review to see if there are ways that we could potentially do code tweaks to incorporate some of these key visitability features, as well as thinking more about how we can incentivize those features within new construction.
So a new construction isn't required to have items or design materials or whatever concepts that consider folks with disabilities or senior citizens?
There are many base requirements that are within the building code. We have heard through engagement and review of best practices that sometimes there are needs that go beyond those base standards that we may want to consider for the city of Bellevue.
Okay, I see. So community engagement is what informed this access?
Correct.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you so much. Okay, and then last item I want to talk about, I know this is not the top 20, I think it's exploring the rental registration program. So I think it's easy to say I don't think anyone should be living in substandard conditions in Bellevue. So I reviewed some of the data to Seattle's approach, and I think it significantly raised cost, and there's some privacy concerns related to this, if memory serves me correctly. So I'm wondering if we can commit to the outcome of ensuring that all our units meet the appropriate conditions, but iterate it on a way so that we're not conducting this that would, impose undue operational cost onto those who own the unit. So I guess, and I'm not saying that you've done this, but avoiding a prescriptive policy here and just making sure that we find something a little bit balanced there. That's one thing. And let's see. I think, those are all the comments that I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Breyer.
Thank you, Councilman Breyer. you're still top one, shortest comment anyway, so there is no signal for you to wrap it at all. Again, thank you so much. An amazing box of tools that hopefully will help us to get to our goal. As all of my colleagues mentioned, I am also deeply care about housing affordability, and that's, I think, the shared agreement among everyone. More housing, especially for people who are being priced out of Bellevue. As everyone mentioned, and all of the emails that we receive, the tension shows up in how we are going to get there. And maybe some of these proposed tools could create barriers instead of removing them. Like Councilman Breyer, I would love to focus on outcome. So we need actions that protect people who are struggling while also keep housing feasible to build. So I'm looking forward to your next round of stakeholder engagement and how you're going to strike that balance. Again, appreciate your very, very hard work and amazing product that you gave to us and presented to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great. I think we have another study session that our city manager is going to introduce. I cannot pronounce that Latin word, so I leave it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor and council members, tonight, this third study session is on the omnibus code amendments for 2026, land use code amendments. So staff does regularly come to you and to our community to do some cleanup work in our land use code. And historically, that's focused on technical adjustments and clarifications. We are going to approach this one with some added efficiency and effectiveness by expanding the scope a little bit to include some state law compliance changes and also some small code edits that we hope to be non-controversial. And so that would be our omnibus approach to it. We have Nick Whipple, Assistant Director of Code and Policy, and Kirsten Mant, Senior Planner for Code and Policy, and they are here to describe this package and to seek council's direction to initiate the work. Nick?
Welcome.
Great, thank you, and good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. So as noted, I'm here with Kirsten Mant to present on the 2026 Omnibus Code Amendments. This will include both Bellevue City Code Amendments, as we call them BCCAs, as well as a Land Use Code Amendment. We are seeking direction this evening for council to initiate the 2026 Omnibus Amendments. We were having some fun with the bus, putting a bus up there, not related to the topic in any other way other than the word. And so we are looking for some direction to have the Planning Commission process the land use code amendment portion of this omnibus package, and then we'll bring back the Bellevue City Code amendments at the same time that you're reviewing the eventual PC Planning Commission recommendation. Our agenda will touch on what is the Omnibus 2026 Land Use Code Amendment. Kirsten will walk us through the scope and our engagement approach, as well as our timeline and the next steps here. So we'll first start with what is the Omnibus 2026 LUCA. As the city manager mentioned, we have historically done cleanup amendments and engaged with council, get direction to have some cleanups of the land use code, really to address some Scrivener errors, cross-references, pretty straightforward elements. What we are looking to do is create a couple more buckets to address as part of this Omnibus LUCA. Omnibus is really just relating to a package of amendments that are previously published separately, and so we're looking to address a few other items for administrative efficiency. So Kirsten will walk through those, but they really relate to some minor mandates that we do need to comply with, where we're just wanting to achieve minimum baseline compliance, but they're not very controversial. Maybe wouldn't warrant a standalone code amendment process, so we can just package it with this. And then there's some other items that do require some policy consideration, and that council has established a policy, and we've been implementing the code, and we feel maybe there's a more direct way to align with that established policy after we put that code into practice. So I'm looking for those opportunities as well, with the caveat that we are avoiding controversial items that would require or warrant additional public input and public process. So that's kind of our gauge for what's in the scope versus out of the scope. So with that, we'll have Kirsten walk through these categories in more detail.
Great, thanks, Nick. So as Nick mentioned, one of the first three buckets is the sort of traditional just cleanup. Again, it's things like formatting, correcting references. We have a list that we maintain with our land use planners that make note of things as they notice it. So kind of combing through that and making sure we're doing some good cleanup work. We have 8 bills currently wrapped into this project, some of which have some code components, some of which are mostly process, but we're just confirming that we have everything in line. Some examples are 1757 is a trailer bill to the residential redevelopment bill from the last cycle, has some cleanup items. Childcare reform is expanding where childcare use can be in the city, and mandating that. Things like the building cladding bill is just we cannot require a specific cladding material. So some pretty straightforward and simple code amendments here. And I do want to note, as is in the memo, not all of these are due for compliance this year, but we figured these are some small cleanup items, may as well get them done. In terms of some of the small policy scope amendments, a few examples that we've kind of heard might be a good idea are looking at some other small revisions to the tree code. This is, for example, property line trees. You can't currently count a property line tree towards your total retained trees, so that felt like a simple fix to allow people to count those. Reducing some of the retention standards for the SR1 land use district to put it more in line with the other SR land use districts. Another suggestion was looking at permitted uses in our highest density residential only land use districts to make sure that we're capturing the zone capacity for those districts. So removing single family as a permitted use there, just so that moving forward we can really ensure we're getting that capacity we need in those districts that we have zoned it for higher capacity. And those are land use districts that are starting at 10 dwelling units per acre up to 30 dwelling units per acre. And then another one that we've talked about is adding in some code compliance language for the critical areas code. This came up in discussions with our utilities department, needing some teeth or recourse for amending issues that happen with critical areas enforcement, and right now they don't really have that. So didn't really get a chance to get that into the critical areas code, but figured that could be another kind of small win for this package. The engagement approach for this one is fairly limited in scope, again, just because of the scope of the package. We're not planning anything that's particularly controversial, but obviously want to make sure we maintain our online presence. If people have questions or suggestions, if someone's noticed something that they see as a necessary fix, we're certainly taking those in and reviewing them. Of course, presenting and consulting with Planning Commission and City Council, and just generally getting some feedback. We will have a presence at some upcoming engagement events just to get the word out there, talk to people, see if anyone has anything to say. In terms of timeline, we are targeting action by July. There are a few bills that compliance is due by around that time, so that's sort of formed the basis for that timeline. So of course, we're here tonight asking for initiation, looking at doing some preliminary outreach just beginning of this year, getting deeper into the code drafting with the Planning Commission process in March through May, and then aiming for a study session and public hearing in the second quarter, so we can hopefully meet our timeline for July. And that is all we have for presentation this evening. We're asking people to get on the bus with the omnibus amendments.
Thank you, Kristen, Nick, and Rebecca, and the whole team. Thank you for starting this initiative to make our code usable, up-to-date, and legally sound. New method. I'm just going to look at you. If you have any comments, raise your hand. No, raise your hand on this side. Councilor Sumadeveria, no one has any question on here. Do you have any question?
I don't have a question, but I am on that bus with them.
Thank you so much. We are all on the bus with you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, we need a motion. No, don't good luck. I need someone to make a motion.
I move to direct staff to initiate work on the 2026 omnibus amendments and direct the planning commission to review and process the Luca portion of the omnibus package.
It has been moved by Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councilor Nieuwenhuis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passed. And I think by that note, we can adjourn the meeting and see you all very soon. Have a great night.